Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Judd Bowman, a distinguished alumnus of NCSM. Judd is a serial entrepreneur renowned for founding and leading successful ventures in the tech industry. While still a student at NCSM, he co-founded Pinpoint Networks, which later became Matricity, a leader in the mobile content solutions. He went on to establish Appia, a prominent mobile user acquisition network, which was acquired by Digital Turbine in 2015. Currently, Judd is the founder and CEO of Sift Media, a company that leverages advanced AI and machine learning to hyper-target app install ads for clients. Beyond his entrepreneurial achievements, Judd, along with his classmate Taylor Brockman, established the Brockman Endowment, a fund dedicated to inspiring NCSM students to initiate ventures and pursue advanced research in STEM fields. Our conversation will delve into Judd's journey, his current endeavors, and his invaluable advice for aspiring entrepreneurs and innovators. Judd, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Just to start off, reflecting on your formative years, how did your time at NC STEM influence your entrepreneurial spirit and career trajectory?
Well, first off, I felt so lucky to have the chance to go to School of Science and Math. I mean, it's one of the best high schools in the country. It's the best high school in North Carolina. But what's really unique about science and math, as you know, is that it brings students from all over the state. And so I think if I had to say like a single one thing that was influential, it's how I met Taylor Brockman, who I went on to co-found my first company with, which was an incredible experience. So feel very thankful for that.
Could you share specific experiences or mentors at NC STEM who played a pivotal role in shaping your path?
Yeah, so I mean, in addition to Taylor, because obviously we started a project our senior year that ended up turning into a company and changed our lives in so many ways. But the other thing I would say is I think my favorite class at Science and Math was something called Research and Bio. Do they still have that?
I believe so, yes.
And my teacher was I'm not sure if she's still there, but Dr. Naiman was the teacher of Research and Bio. And I think what was really really cool is not only were we getting to work with cutting edge equipment and doing our own research projects, but there was like an independence to it. So it was like, we were working on our own project. I think that's very similar to entrepreneurship. And, when you would finish the project, you'd go around and give talks and present your research. And I think that actually gave me a lot of helpful experience when it came time to build my companies, to go make presentations, to raise capital from investors.
That's fantastic, Mr. Bowman. I also understand that you co-founded Pinpoint Networks during your time at NC STEM, which evolved into Matricity and later founded Appia. So what inspired you to embark on these adventures at such a young age?
Well, I think, look, I feel so lucky because I've never had a job. I know that sounds crazy, but I've basically just worked on 3 projects for my whole life. So I took a slightly different path, but I think the beautiful thing about being young, when you're 17 or 18 years old, you don't know what's not possible. And so I think that's a key thing. Like the older you get, the harder it is. The other thing is like you can take risks at a young age that are harder to do when you're older. Like if you have a mortgage or a family and kids and sort of a higher burn rate, it's a little bit easier to take those, just to swing for the fences when you're younger.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You don't know what's not possible, or not impossible. Sorry. Yeah, that's fantastic. So, what were some of the significant challenges that you faced in these startups, and how did you overcome them?
I mean, looking back, I realized, I was class of 99 at Science and Math. So it's been 25 years. We just had our 25-year high school reunion. So like someday that'll be you. Like think about that. So if I reflect back, I've been so extraordinarily lucky to have the chance to do 3 startups for one. And, my first company ended up going public. My second company was acquired. So I feel like I was hit by lightning twice. But the reality is that doesn't tell like the whole story. Like, so even though those companies were successful, we went through extremely tough times. I mean, down to our last payroll, nearly running out of money. You hear the exciting stories about raising large rounds of venture capital in the news, but like we also had to raise bridge loans and debt from banks. And I think there were multiple times when I thought both companies were going to go under, where we had to do layoffs, where we had big downturns, where our ideas failed. And, people don't talk enough about the failures, but there were some dark days at the start. But I think, we got through it. And obviously the company succeeded. So it makes it a little easier to talk about that.
That's fantastic, Mr. Bowman. Now, transitioning to you being the founder and CEO of Sift Media currently, can you tell us about the company's mission and the innovative solutions that it offers in the mobile advertising space?
Yes, for sure. So like my second company was Appia, which went through a pivot from sort of powering app stores for phone companies to becoming an early ad network on Android and iPhones. And so once we sold that company, from the experience we had at Appia, especially the second half of Appia, we saw a pretty big opportunity in the mobile ad market for apps and games based on what we were seeing. And so the mission of the company was started around the confluence of two themes that we were really interested in. The first was programmatic. So we believed that all ads would be auctioned through programmatic exchanges, and that would be a really interesting way to scale up advertising. But then it tied in with the second big theme, which was the rise of ML and AI. And so if you sort of marry these two together, we saw an opportunity to use cutting edge ML and AI and let that be something that any brand from an app or a game could leverage to help them scale and grow.
How has Sift Media evolved since its inception, and what milestones are you particularly proud of?
It's interesting looking back. Like my first two companies, Motricity and Appia, went through a bunch of pivots. I think Motricity like finally found its footing on the third try. Appia went through a really tough pivot about halfway through, and then we found what worked. And what's crazy with Sift is like the original idea pretty much worked out the gate. That idea of using AI and ML to scale ads programmatically worked. And I think that the milestone that I'm most proud of, I mean, there's a couple I'd point. I would say like making the Inc. 500. We made number 175. That's, I think, for entrepreneurs. That's like, there's a lot of awards and stuff, but like the beauty of the Inc. 500 is based purely on revenue growth. So that's one that I'm particularly proud of.
That's fantastic, Mr. Bowman. Now, I understand that in 2011, you and Taylor Brockman established the Bowman Brockman Endowment to support NC STEM students in entrepreneurship and advanced research. What motivated you to create this fund?
Yeah. I mean, I think first and foremost, that was, I guess that was probably a year after Motricity had gone public. And so, I mentioned that I feel like I was hit by lightning twice in my career, and that was the first time. So I think Taylor and I were looking for a way to give back. And science and math, it changed our lives. We wouldn't have met each other if we hadn't gone to the school. So we wanted to find a way to give back. And then the second thing is that we had the chance to be back on campus. I don't know if it was a reunion or what, but we were there, and I met these two students. So this was like a very specific example, and they were giving a presentation on their research. It was let's see, Sajith Wikramasakara and Andrew Guo, and they had it reminded me of my time at Research and Bio because I'd competed in the Siemens competition, and I didn't get very far with my research, as I recall. But these two students won the grand prize, which I don't know if they're still doing that. It was $100,000 scholarship. So, and I just remember being in the audience and like listening to these two incredibly bright students pitch their idea. And I don't even remember what the project was, but the sense was like, wow, this could cure cancer. I mean, it was like really amazing stuff. And obviously got the grand prize at the Siemens. And one of the questions in the audience was like, what do you guys need to take this research further? And then they said, well, we need this part and we need this cell culture. And someone was like, well, how much does that cost? And they thought for a second and they said, $300. And like the whole place like burst out laughing because like first $300 is nothing. And they were probably like grossly exaggerating how little cash they would have needed. But it also, reminded me of my time on campus where you have no job, you have no ability to pay for anything. Like I remember having to scrimp together, a nickel just to go eat out on 9th Street, right? To go to Cosmic Cantina. So, so we basically, that's what kind of hatched this idea. We're like, hey, can we give back to the school? And as part of giving back, set up an endowment that would be a source of funding for students directly.
That's really great, Mr. Bowman. I'm glad you're giving back. How do you envision this endowment impacting students? And can you share any success stories that have emerged from it?
Well, I think that the idea was like the next time there's students doing really cool research that they'd have an ability to get funding for pretty much whatever they need. I don't know the latest count. I'm sure we have funded now, looking back over the past 10 or 15 years, well over 100 students. It might even be 200 students. We fund 5 or 10 maybe every year. I know we funded projects now on the Morganton campus, not just the Durham campus. Sometimes I get to come back on campus and meet some of the students, which is always fun. It's always fun to see like the Bowman Rockman logo on like the big rockets. I know the rocketry team has used them a bunch, so it's kind of cool to think of that, going up, not in maybe outer space, of course, but up, I know, over a mile. The I met a student once who went into venture capital, Param Sidhu. I don't remember what year he was, but he joined one of the top tier firms called Excel. They're probably most famous for being the original capital behind Facebook. So just the fact that he could crack in and get into that fund, I know he's working at one of their portfolio companies now, which is a unicorn. We've had a few iGEM awards. A few years back, we funded a pretty talented entrepreneur named Sasha Sirkin. She's working on a neat idea to expand access to eye care in like emerging markets. It's called WISE. She just recently got an NC Idea grant for her startup too. So it's really just amazing to follow all these amazing stories.
That's really great. It sounds like the fund's doing really great work. So we appreciate you for that. Now, drawing from your journey and past experiences, what key advice would you offer to current NCSM students and budding entrepreneurs aiming to make their mark in the tech world?
Uh, I think that the first thing is you just got to go for it. My first ideas like never really worked, but at some point you have to just like go for it, and then once you're in it and you've started a company, it requires like huge amount of perseverance because it is not easy. It's like crazy hard. If I knew how hard, that's sort of what I meant. Like you're young, and when you're 17 or 18, you don't know what failure feels like. You think you can do anything, which I think it's absolutely imperative to hold on to that belief. So maybe I should stop talking because you just have to go and try and then be like wicked persistent. And you do have to focus. Like you need to go after a giant market, and the odds are really good that the idea you have isn't quite right. But it might not be off by that much. Like it might just be a quarter turn screw difference. Like you just need to tweak it a little bit. So you have to be reactive, and that's what requires intense focus, which is like I call it adaptive focus, because you have to be willing to be changing what you're focused on, but you have to be like super hyper focused on just like one thing incessantly.
Is there a particular mindset in addition to this incessant focus or approach that you believe is crucial for entrepreneurial success?
I mean, really, you just can't give up. You just have to keep going. And it's the only way to not fail, I think. But at the same time, like this stuff can get stressful. You can't take yourself too seriously. Like I try to remind myself that, it's just a game we're playing. You're trying to change the world in like a little small way, and you're just playing a game, and you shouldn't take yourself too seriously.
Well, thank you so much for that, Mr. Bowman, and we appreciate your time and look forward to witnessing the continued impact of your work and your contributions to the community.
Thank you, Alex. Great to connect here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.